Recording in progress.
Thank you. I'd like to call the Public Works Subcommittee regular meeting to order. It's August 14th. It's 6:01, and we're in the Town Council chambers. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance. Thank you. Danielle, could we do a roll call?
Sure. Robert DeCina,
Present.
Robert Rotalick, Ken Demers,
Here.
Gary Lafferty,
Here.
Rachel Ryan. Here.
Thank you. Public participation. Is there anybody in the crowd that would like to speak? You can come up to the podium and state your name and address, and we'll listen.
Good evening. My name is David Locke. I'm on 147 Chemistry Road.
Excuse me, Dave. Could you hear him? Oh no, he turned the other mic on for you. I'm sorry. There you
Sit over here.
go.
I can sit over here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Locke. I live at 147 Pepperidge Tree Road. I'm here about a Pepperidge Tree Road project that's been on the books for quite a few years now, and I've been to Public Works Subcommittee meetings in the past before the pandemic. So it's my first one since the pandemic. And I was just wondering if I could find out what the status on that, if it's ever going to happen. Because right now, it's not an emergency, it's just an ordinary drainage situation, and the Pepperidge Tree Road's obviously degrading, and it needs to be, can't be just repaved, it has to be rebuilt. And I would like to have a pipe put in front of my house so I could put a curtain drain in, so I don't have to put curb cuts in. I want to, because I have a wet backyard.
Okay.
And so, and I want to put a new driveway in, and I want to put a new driveway in before you rebuild the road. I would wait till after the road was rebuilt, then I could put a new driveway in also. And I have an estimate and a design plan from 2020. I made a copy, I could get a copy of that. So I don't know if this committee is aware of this project or not, so that's why I came to the meeting tonight. I'm pretty sure you guys might not be aware of it, because none of you were here at the last meeting I was at.
All right. Okay. Chair, are you prepared to talk about this at all, or should so what we'll have to do, Dave, is we'll have to get you an answer. Either Jerry could communicate with you between the next meeting, or we can give you an answer in the next meeting.
Okay, I just didn't know how the budgets were going. I know that, all the budgets have been passing, so, and also with the infrastructure funding coming through, I thought maybe this isn't that definitely an infrastructure thing, that there would be more funding for this.
Yeah.
But then I read in the paper about the 18 million for the water and sewer, so I'm like, is that going to have an impact? Is that going to cancel everything or what? So.
Hard questions to answer, but we can get you answers, though.
Okay, so
It
do you need
just
this
won't
copy?
be-
I can give you this copy of this estimate if you want to.
You could leave it, sure.
I made a copy.
Just know on the bigger picture is we need 45 million to do our roads from the study, and we have 6.5 million. So we're only doing 15%. That road doesn't ring a bell. A lot of our roads, over half of our roads need work, probably more like 2/3. So there's a lot of work that we're not going to be able to do due to the plan that we currently have for $45 million.
So that's the other thing. I'd like to find out what my options are. If I can't, I don't want to put curb cuts in. I don't think they're a good idea, even though they're all over my neighborhood. I don't have to put a dry well or something down in my front yard, which I don't want to do. But if I have to do that, I will do that. But I need to solve the drainage problem in my backyard.
And usually we don't accept water into our drainage systems. So it's something that's it's hard for me to answer without looking at your exact condition.
Okay, I have design plans for, I got a copy of the plan from Roy Kavanaugh gave me this years ago. So there was a design drawn up. Somebody had been investigated previously. So it's not a new subject. It's been going on for at least 10 years now.
Right, it does ring a bell for me. I think, Jerry, that this is more than just a road reconstruction. I think there's a drainage issue here with,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, yeah, there's a
Jump
gap,
in,
and
Paul.
I've spoken with Mr. Locke in the past about this, so I know something. There's about a 500-foot gap south of Eastwood Hall Road on Pepperidge Tree that he's talking very flat, and the road, also the lots are pretty flat. So, Mr. Locke, we designed some drainage extension from, I forgot the next road, but anyway, up north, and it just never got funded from, you know, the previous Public Works directors. So it's something that's been in the works. I don't, you know.
And I know it's a drainage issue in the wintertime because the water seeps over the curb anyway, and so they have to sand it every single day because it seeps overnight and makes a skating rink every morning. So it's costing the town money to have to sand it every night in cold weather below freezing.
right,
So you can talk to your snowplow drivers and see how they feel about it.
okay. Well, thank you, David. We'll,
Do you need this?
No, I know. Oh, but like, if you have an estimate, yeah. Okay, I don't know if I've seen that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? You good, Al? Okay. All right, close public participation. On to number 5, to the approval of the minutes. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the June 12th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. Any discussion? Any changes? Deletions, additions? Seeing none? Let's all vote. In favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. Correspondence?
Yes, I've received numerous paving questions and pothole complaints, probably close to a dozen plus emails, focusing more around Winnemog Road, Hamilton Ave, Middlebury Road, as the three. There's others that are out there. And also, as soon as we repair a pothole, another one will show up. We attribute it to this year's heavy rain that's washing out the road base and some of the potholes, older potholes that we have. And we also received 4 claims for blown out tires at the potholes. As soon as we get a complaint, we're out there, if it's that severe that day or the next morning, with hot material that we could get out of the asphalt plants. You know, as I stated, it didn't take our roads in the past. It took 10 to 20 years to get to this condition. And I'm not going to be able to fix everything in the first year or two. It's going to be a long-term plan. From the beta study, it was $45 million to bring our roads up to the adequate condition that we have. So I didn't want to, so that's most of the things that we're receiving in the office right now, either by an email or a phone call or a resident coming to the desk. If we're not going to get to those roads this year, the team is developing a plan to do some shim paving. It's a short-term fix until the larger mill and pave or full-depth reconstruction can be done, especially for Winnemog Road, Hamilton, and Middlebury Road. And we're also going to take a look at Candy Hill to see if we could do shim paving for that. And I'll save the rest of it for our pavement management program.
Thank you.
The next item is we received 3 Freedom of Information requests from 716 Middlebury Road. The documents were produced, and we did send an email back that they are available at a charge per the Freedom of Information rate structure. And they were sent back about a week and a half ago, and we haven't heard anything. It was still on the table to do drainage, 2 catch basins on the road, and also having a inch to inch and a half lip on a driveway, and also extending a pipe to the property line for that. It was refused by the resident, and they actually wanted us to fully pave the driveway. So at this time, we're just waiting for them to pick up their Freedom of Information paperwork.
Right. Right. Any questions for Jerry on that item?
Through the chair.
Sure.
Jerry, when you mentioned the 2 catch basins and the lip and the pipe, those were all things the town suggested that could be done to be fixed?
Correct.
And the resident refused all of that?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
They wanted that plus an entire new driveway.
Anybody else? Chair, those catch basins, we were putting in anyhow, correct?
Correct, as part of the Middlebury Road reconstruction.
Right, right. And then there was some work that needed to be done in her driveway?
Yes, we were gonna do a new apron that normally, if you have a situation like that, you put a lip in a driveway, so any of the storm water that gets by the catch basin has a chance to stay in the curb line and not go into the driveway itself.
Right, and that's basically the part that she wasn't in agreement with. Because we're doing the catch basins regardless, correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Old business.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we're going to start with Hungerford Avenue reconstruction. At this time, on Thursday, the 17th, the bid will be open to replace the rest of the proposed drainage from Frederick Street down to Falls Avenue. There's a second provision in there to do a little bit more north of Frederick, depending on the price that comes in. Once that is done and approved, we should be back to work within, I'm going to say, max 3 weeks, hopefully no less or no more than that. Any questions on that for now?
Anybody?
Just on Hungerford Avenue, we understand why drainage wasn't put into the street when it was originally constructed many decades ago, is the heavy ledge that is there. So one of the things we did do was we did soil borings to find out the elevation of the ledge. And from that, Joe came up with the plans to put the rest of the catch basins. And how many are there?
There's 22 from Frederick on down, and that's due to the steepness of the hill, so we have to stagger it and put a couple drops in. They also slow down the water.
Go ahead, Herb.
Through the chair. Personally, we all know, no matter what we do for the town now or in the past, it's hard to keep everybody satisfied and happy all the time.
That's correct.
But to give Mr. Millette credit and the staff under Jerry, that the people on Hungerford Avenue have approached me and have mentioned how more receptive you have been to answer any, if not all, of the complaints made about problems on the street. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, how long is the bid, does it stay open?
The bid will be opened at 11 a.m., I believe, Thursday.
And it stays open for how long?
That's it.
That's it.
That's
That's
it?
it. We open the bid, and then we'll choose a contractor to do the work.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Could I just ask, so what work has been done up to this point? Just a quick overview?
A quick overlay in the drainage from Buckingham Street up to Woodlawn
Okay.
has been completed. The town did that. This part here, it's too deep, too steep. Town's equipment just won't be able to get that done easily.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
That's it.
Okay, the next item, B,
Yeah.
pavement management program. So we have crack sealed the roads that needed to be chip stoned. We did do the chip stone roads. Over the next week, you're going to see a fog seal, which locks everything into place. All of the loose stones have been swept up, and chip stone is a very cost-effective way of maintaining our roads. It's about 10% compared to a full mill and overlay. Otherwise, we'd spend 10 times as much if we had to. In the $45 million, has about a third of our roads being chip stoned in the town. There's some roads that cannot be chip stoned because we lost them with not spending any money. They should have been chip stoned 10, 20 years ago. We just opened up bids for the mill and pave this past Thursday at 11 o'clock. They're sitting on my desk to be evaluated. I had to push them off to the side. It does hurt me because I know every day I lose now is a day I'm going to lose in November when we're milling and paving. And we're getting the projects out for the full depth reconstruction. So that's how we attacked our pavement program: crack seal, chip stone, mill and pave, and in full depth. As an interim measure, once we get done with the heavy drainage work that Bob's going to bring up later on in the meeting, is we're going to get our own paving box out and do a shim pave. So it's a very small amount of material to try to tie in all of the cracked road and also to do a better patch than putting in patch for potholes. So that's our current process. The good thing is the bid packages that we have developed now, we want to really put them out in the January, February, March time period for the next season with the roads that we want to do. So now that we have our standard package that Joe and the team has put together, we're going to be in a much better position next year to come out with our, it's better to bid in the winter for paving than it is in the summer.
Any questions on,
Through the chair. With the chip seal, you said there's going to be one more layer that goes down?
Correct.
Okay, that's happening.
It's called a fog seal, so it's basically an oil coating
Okay,
that dries within a half hour. And it'll make the road look like a paved road. It's black in color. And it really locks in the rest of the road.
great.
anybody else? No? D, Wilson Street.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Wilson Street Bridge project is finally underway after some quite delays with utility relocation. The poles were relocated, but some of the utility companies, namely Altel, didn't finally move their lines until the middle of July. We lost about 6 weeks there, but since then, Dayton has started on the construction. They've moved the bridge deck, started on the abutments, put the cofferdam in to divert the river flow to the east or north side, and they're working on the south side abutments and concrete footings. So I don't think they're out there this week, according, they had other projects they're working on, but they believe they're still anticipated to get the work done before the winter time. And they had some issues, minor, about some of the neighbors were concerned about the time they started working. It was even before 6 a.m. They were starting work as early as 5 or 5:30, but they're not going to start before 6 a.m. for the remainder of the summer. There's an agreement with the property owners. So that's just a quick update. I don't know if there's any questions from the committee.
Yeah, no, one thing that we're really going slow on is the 36-inch main feed that feeds water into Watertown and Waterbury. It's one of the 3 high service lines that come in. And for us, it's our main line that comes into it. We're literally about 5 to 10 feet from each of the abutments with that line.
Wow.
They know the kind of location, but they don't necessarily know the depth. We did get radar and sonar to give us a better feeling for where it was at, but even that was tough to read that pipe. I still continue to receive complaints about Hopkins being one way. But when I knew there was a fire alarm that came in this morning for the L&K area, I knew we were safe to have those fire trucks check out a fire alarm in the L&K area. Once the work is done, Hopkins will go back to a two-way road. And on Merriman, we had to put some additional signage up because we still have drivers that will move all the signs and drive through Merriman to get to the other side. Now we have enough signage up that they literally have to move 4 or 5 signs to drive in the other direction. We did have a vehicle that actually hit the sign and dragged it down the road about 200 feet. We did get a police report, and what the issue was is she was on her phone trying to get directions, but we got the video from a neighbor to show what was actually going on in the road. The next stop is she would have hit the concrete barriers for the bridge. If you haven't been there, I would go down from the north, from Northfield, and I wouldn't come through Wilson, but you could at least observe it in a safe manner. The total bridge deck is ripped off, and it looks pretty interesting other than that 36-inch pipe. I just can't wait to get this project done. So.
Is the replacement bridge deck, is that all assembled and ready
It's
for our
all
call?
constructed, and it's in Albany, New York. We had it inspected. SLR sent the engineer up there to take a look at it, because it's one of the items that we paid for because it's already assembled.
Right.
So,
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chair. Guernsey Town Road.
Yes, Guernsey Town Road, the bid was open. The contract was awarded to Guerrera Construction of Oxford, Connecticut for $3.5 million. And they just signed the contract last week. There was some discussion about where the trailer was going to go, and the Watertown Golf Club was nice enough to let them use the area right at the maintenance building, which is right where they're working. It'll be a great place for their construction trailer. Jared, I don't know if the equipment or material storage has been finalized.
no, we
yet?
haven't resolved that, but we're also going to put it back on the contractor. They bid the project knowing what they were going to get. And we do have our first pre-construction meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Awesome. Any questions? No. All right. Steelbrook.
Hello, everybody. As far as Steel Brook in Oakville by the Pearl Harbor Bridge, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it. We rented a long stick excavator with an extended reach. It was a large excavator with a 60-foot reach, and we were able to excavate all of the sediment out of that, between the two bridges, between the Riverside Cleaners and the Oakville Green. We took about 1,500 yards of material out of there. We believe most of it probably came from the dam that let go. In September of 21, we had that big storm that came through, and we had the dam up by the Seymour Smith building that let go by the pedestrian bridge. And we believe most of the material came from there. So we rented that long stick excavator. We were able to excavate everything from up above, and then we rented a small skid steer on tracks to get everything under the bridges and push it out to where the excavator could take it away. So it was about 100 truckloads of material. So we figure somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 yards of material was taken away. We do have some good before and after pictures. We probably should have loaded them up so you could see. At one point, the bridge nearest what was the old Dave's Upholstery shop was probably 2 feet from the bottom of the bridge deck. The sediment had built up that far. So it was really a flooding danger. And if we had another storm like we had in September 2 years ago, we probably would have lost most of the green, but it's all gone now. The other project that we rented the machine for a couple weeks, and now we have it going to our retention basins. And we did a few retention basins in town, which we could not do with our own equipment. So while we had this machine here in town, we cleaned out the retention basin next to 87 Evelyn Street, the retention basin on Davis Street at Evelyn Street, the big retention basin on East Street, on the corner of East Street and Mount Fair Farm. And now we are down at Franson Road. If you guys could picture, I don't know if you guys know where Sean Franson lives, at the bottom of Franson Road, where the road goes from asphalt to dirt. We're down there cleaning that out. So we probably took 100 yards of material out of Davis Street at Evelyn. We took about 100 yards out of Evelyn, 87 Evelyn, and we probably took 500 yards out of East Street, Mount Fair Farm area. That's a big retention basin. That's probably, I don't know, what would you say, a quarter of an acre, Paul?
Yeah, it's a large base.
And then Franson Road, we're still working on, so we got probably 20 loads we took out of there. So it was well worth renting the machines. We've since returned the skid steer. We no longer need the skid steer. We're not working underneath the bridges anymore, but we do have the long stick excavator till the end of this week. And we're probably going to move it again. The next retention basin we're planning on going to is the one on Echo Lake. If you're going up the hill towards Buckingham Street, it's on the right-hand side. You'll see that we mowed it about 2 months ago. We mowed all the brush down and got to where we could see it, and then we'll get the machine over there and we'll hog out all the sediment out of that one. So,
Bob, where do you bring the material?
right now it's at the transfer station. We stockpiled it and we let it dry out, and a lot of it, especially the stuff that came out of the brook, Steel Brook, is really nice gravel. So, you know, we could use it for different projects around town. It makes great fill, and it's packed really, really nice and hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's dry.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
sure.
The chair.
Go ahead.
Through the chair. This is from the owner of the clothes rack, the cleaners on Riverside Street. He wanted me to mention, he owns that cleaners and another cleaners in town on the main street next to CVS. He's my neighbor. He's a close personal friend. He's also a combat veteran of the war in Kosovo, going back 20-some-odd years. He was very impressed of the work carried out by Robbie, but especially by the fact that the Director of Public Works went to see him. He was at wit's end. He was thinking about shutting down his business, closing down his business. When he heard of Mr. Lukowski's background with the combat engineers, he said he knew that it would be done right, done correct, and there's no more flooding issues there to date. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and for Bob and I feel like the platoon leader and Bob's the platoon sergeant. So
And his
we
name
get it
is
done.
Mr. Mike Macero. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
I just
Ron.
need to give Bob the tools, so, the
And
equipment and
yes,
the
very,
personnel.
he was ready to shut down the business. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Bob, could I assume you already took care of G? Detention
No,
basin
that's
cleaning?
on Joe,
That's Joe.
yeah, for Main Street.
I just had a question before.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Here.
yes, G is taken care of, correct.
For this point.
All right, Bob, I just had a question on, when you got through with the bridge on Main Street there, and then, I know before you guys even started the project, you had so much growth going, it was almost up to the road edge, top of the road. Is there gonna be a regular maintenance schedule to keep all that, brushing that down, so in case there's heavy rains?
The issue is getting a machine in there. We don't have the proper equipment. We have to rent
Yeah.
it.
Well, I don't mean so much the gravel, but it was so much like, it was like all the weeds and, other growth that was there, that was just like, I don't know if they can go ahead, if they can go in and like brush hot, not brush hot.
Between the two bridges?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, there's nothing for it to grow on now. Before there was like a sandbar
Yeah.
for everything to grow on.
Yeah.
Everything's gone. Everything is probably at minimum 8 inches deep right now of
Yeah.
water, wall to wall. There's no exposed soil. There's nothing for anything to grow on right now.
okay.
So until we get more sediment built up again, probably won't have to worry about any mowing.
So, and all the work you're doing now, like on Evelyn Street and Franson Road, they're all town retention basins?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Chair, can you mention just, I know that when we talked about this last time, those are all town detention basins, but what about the ones that these businesses have been neglecting?
So this bigger picture is we have 60 detention basins in town that the town has to maintain on town property. This is going to take us many years, but it's worth it because it's going to help reduce the flooding on the Steel Brook and the Turkey Brook and other locations. So it has time to sit in the basin before it hits those water courses. There's another couple dozen, 20 to 30 private basins that I'll talk to planning and zoning. Because when they issue the permits for a development, they give them a permit to build a basin, but the second part of the permit is they have to maintain the basin. And this isn't, an issue with our town. It's an issue with every town in the state that doesn't maintain their detention basins. They're forgotten about, both on the municipal side with Bob and I, but also with the private basins, because they blend in. You don't even know where they're at.
Right.
With that. So I'll follow back up with planning, if they could write letters to the commercial businesses to clean out their basins too.
That would be great. Thank you. H, Main Street. Joe.
Okay, again, Mr. Chairman and the Chair. Main Street has multiple projects going on. As we know, we have the public parking lot that is moving forward. Besides that, we also have the RFB project, which at this point, I just updated our maps again. Weston and Sampson is completing their updates by the end of this week. SLR is complete. So at that point, we should be able to move forward with the RFFB projects for the crosswalks. Okay, and now the third part of it is the sidewalk from Starbucks up to the wall at St. John's.
Right.
The first 200 feet will be the town's responsibility to do first. Again, those drawings have been updated and are being sent to the state with the rest of the project. SLR is going to be taking care of the wall design, and at that point, it's going to go from there. I'm not sure exactly how far after that before construction will begin, but we hope very soon.
How many feet is it from the corner of Woodruff to where they end in front of Starbucks?
That's roughly 700 feet.
Wow. Who's responsible for the other 500?
Well, that is what we're going for, the grant.
Okay.
Okay.
What about the parking lot? Can you share anything with us on the design? Is it done?
The design is done. There was a few legal things that had to be taken care of, which have now been taken care of. It's back in the owner's hands with the contractor, his contractor, and
Planning and zoning approved
Yeah,
plans and also got a wetlands approval last Thursday.
right. And then there was a
It was
question.
kind of formality, but they.
Right. There was a question on the lights too, the white lights that I chose. They thought they were upshining, but these are all downshining with 360-degree light shields on them. So we cleared all those questions up with them.
Yeah. You guys are happy with the design, with the easement that he's given us to come in between Walgreens and the insurance company?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an existing one, it works well. And then going out will be a right turn only.
Right.
So, and it's gonna be, you're gonna have to be forced to take a right. You're not gonna be able to take a left-hand turn
Right.
there.
And there's still a lot of heavy lifting between the town manager, the town attorney, and Mr. Greenberg.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other separate part that we're not fully up to date on the minute by minute what happened this afternoon, what happened this morning.
Right. Okay. Any questions for Joe? No? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
The next one is sidewalks. So we found a company that does abatement, that shaves down the sidewalks under a state contract. This Wednesday, they'll be complete with 412 trip hazards in the town. And we're gonna assign them other areas with the town. We're using the town road aid money, so it's not necessarily our tax money, it's our state tax money that we pay into. But for every one that we do could help prevent a slip, trip, or fall on the sidewalk. Once we're done with that, I want to recommend that we go back to Beta to do a sidewalk study on the sections that are failed, that need full replacement. We have 35 miles of sidewalk in the town that we are responsible for. And then we want to go out with the help of highways, but also have a contract to do slabs and sections. So highways could stay more focused on maintenance, but if they have capability, they'll also be replacing sections of the sidewalk. And the last, the bigger part of it is the ADA plans that we briefed. One of our great staff engineers, Jason, was up here at the public hearing meeting. We submitted the plans, but we still have to do some other legwork to go back to District 4 and to the NVCOG with that. And if we did it, hired somebody on the outside, it would have been $300,000 to $350,000 worth of design. That one of our newest staff engineers did it in-house.
Nice.
So I always wonder what he did, but now I know what he did. He's been working on sidewalks for a long time. So,
Any questions for Jerry? Yeah, sure.
I admire the emphasis that Mr. Lukowski and his staff has regarding the maintenance of this 35 miles of sidewalk that the town's responsible for. It's also 35 miles of sidewalk that could be inherent liability if somebody falls. I'm just curious, was there much benign neglect over the years regarding this matter?
I think it's normal in most municipalities. And it's just not necessarily Watertown.
Thank
It's everybody, and part of it, we do have one lawsuit that we're fighting right now, just off of Main Street with somebody that tripped on the sidewalk. And I was privileged, probably by the wrong way. I saw a sidewalk lawsuit for Wallingford, and they asked for 150, and they got like 35,000. So once I started seeing that, I said, if I could, fix them for, a few $100 each location, it's well worth it. And I don't want to study it with Beta until we get around the town and fix all the trip hazards. So,
Thank you.
Makes sense. Thank you. How about new business? Steelbrook Greenway.
Yes, the Steelbrook Greenway section between Unico Field and French Street is under design. The consultant is Weston and Sampson. We had public hearing is going to be scheduled for October or November, and plans should be, I guess, mostly completed by then, but it's still, they asked us, there's some borings they're going to do for the bridge. There's a bridge at Steelbrook Crossing towards French Street that has to be put in, just probably similar to the pedestrian bridge down by Seymour Smith, that kind of design to be similar, for pedestrians, but to handle, street traffic if necessarily, parking area off of French Street for, I don't know, 10 or 20 cars, I've got exactly how many, but this is all finally going forward. And design probably be not completed until next year. Construction probably won't be till 2025. It's still a ways out, but it is underway, the design anyway, and survey. And they also, our street department highway was good enough to clear the not weighting everything down there so they could get they were very appreciative of us clearing that to get their boring machine in there. So if you ever tried to walk through there, it's got pretty pretty crowded at the north end there, near French Street, so.
I'd be afraid to walk across French Street. I mean, I'm very familiar with the walkways in Cheshire, and they really let you know that they're there in
The
advance.
RFPs,
and
yeah,
they put signs in.
Right.
you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
they really
I was
make
through,
it, because you got to slow the people down from Main Street going down French Street if people are going to actually
Absolutely.
use it and walk across the road.
Right.
In that design, I'm sure they'll,
Oh, there's going to be an
Do something.
RFP, there'll
Yeah.
definitely be one there at French, yeah.
yeah. Any questions? Go ahead, Gary.
Now, from Front Street to Echo Lake Road, is that still considered Steelbrook Greenway?
Right, the
Same
middle,
thing.
north end of the middle segment,
Yeah.
however, it's right.
I was just wondering, I'm just thinking, like, say, even when they go ahead and put the Naugatuck one, you know, I think you got all these long sections, like, so say you're coming down, you're on Steelbrook Greenway, and there's an emergency, say, you know, I think, like, say, there should be like a stripe going down the road, like, say, the right side of Front Street be white, and the other side would be yellow, with different colors. So if somebody says, oh, I have an emergency on Steelbrook Greenway, and the town's gonna say whereabouts, and they're not gonna know. I'm just thinking for safety reasons, there should be
That's a
some
good
kind
point,
of-
I'd have to look into that.
Or-
It's really-
And that's definitely a good thing that we could bring up at the public hearing,
Okay,
is maybe there could be a numbering scheme or a lettering scheme.
yeah. 'Cause I figured-
I'm at D right now, I need help, you know, when every 100 or 500 feet, we have a letter or a number.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Productive meeting, guys.
We good?
Yep.
Item B.
We submitted our community connectivity grant application on July 21st. We applied for $800,000 to push back the wall at St. John's and reconstruct it and add a sidewalk. We were complimented by NVCOG on how detailed our application was. They approximated 90 days until we hear back.
All right. Any questions for Danielle? Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. That's great.
How about item C?
See, Danielle and I are working on it. It's a steep grant for 2023. The town manager directed it to go towards the highway garage. So it's a $500,000 max ceiling plus a 20% town match. So we're looking at a $600,000 project, 100 from the town, 500 from the state. And basically, it's a new roof, windows, electrical work, some painting, a new air conditioning system that we have, a fire alarm that we desperately need, and a small addition to the front of the building. It's key with this part of the grant that you do some new construction with it, from when I was reading it over the past week. So that's the addition to the front part. We also evaluated raising the roof. It was outside of the cost. We could just raise the roof and do nothing else. And also we evaluated with putting the fire suppression system in, but there's not enough of space to put the pipe in, and plus the weight of the pipe structurally cannot be sound with that 1954 building that we have. This is more of a temporary measure, so we could stay in the garage for another 5, 10, 15 years. But even, like I said, when we move out, I still think it's good for like the Board of Ed facilities to move in, possibly parts of the Parks Department for storage of equipment that they have parked outdoors. So it's well worth the investment. It is due on Friday, close of business. And it's also going to come up at town council, because the town council has to vote on it as a project. So I put down the date that we're meeting for the next town council check that box in order to have it for the submission. It's also going to work on the front fence and the 2 gates. And I'm sure I missed a few things, but the biggest thing was roof, windows, fire alarm, air conditioning, electrical, and some paint.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Street sweeper.
So we're requesting a street sweeper. We did test out a couple of them. Our current street sweepers is our 1998, which is 25 years old. It's basically a parts machine.
Here.
Our next street sweeper is 23 years old. So for both of those sweepers, we could get, what kind of plates are they called, Bob? Antique plates for our street sweepers. The one from, believe it or not, 2000 is 23 years ago. It breaks down all the time. We can never keep it on the road. And what we call our new street sweeper, and I had to have them clarify what's new, it's 12 years old, already. So the 2 machines that we put on the road, they're broken, they're down all the time. It took us forever to get the sand and debris off of the road this past spring. And in fact, the machines have deteriorated even further. So we're looking at a brand-new 4-wheel drive mechanical high dump street sweeper. We're looking at taking $46,575 out of the NIP bill, which we get from the state, which is authorized from the Connecticut State Bill 1037, where it says purchasing a mechanical street sweeper, because we do find a lot of nips when we're done and emptying out the sweeper. And the rest of the funding, we want to go after the construction equipment replacement. This is one of the first vehicles that we want to pay outright. We don't want to put it on a 5-year lease or loan, because out of those 5 years, you are probably, one of those 5 years is you're paying pure interest. But as time goes, I want to put additional money into buying vehicles outright and not putting them on the lease. This is going to deplete a good portion of that account. But like I said, when equipment's coming off that we're done paying, I want to put the full amount into it. So we could replace a vehicle or 2 each year, but pay outright. I don't want to say we're never going to put another one on lease, but this is at least the first one that we want to go towards it. With that, it's going to leave the 12-year sweeper, and it will have the new sweeper, and then the 2000 sweeper will be more of a parts truck, but or for repair parts, but we're looking to see if we could get that back on the road. But what happens is it'll be on the road for a day or two, and it'll be broken for a week. And the town residents are looking for a schedule on when they're sweeping the roads, and we can never be consistent because both machines are down, and we lost our schedule when they could sweep out their driveways into the curb line. I know we do need a vote from the Public Works Subcommittee and also a vote from Town Council for this. So,
Sure. Go ahead, Gary.
Now, what's this optional elevator assembly?
that's the main piece that we heard other towns are buying. And it's basically, it's a whole assembly that comes out that lifts the material. So if something breaks down on the machine, this is one of the pieces that does. And if we have it on hand, it'll be in the shop for a couple hours a day, and we could put it right back out on the road instead of letting it sit for a few weeks to get this part on hand. It's a question that Bob and I asked, if we had to buy like one of the better parts for this to use. They said this would be the part.
And what's usually the lifespan of the sweepers, like 15 years?
I would, just looking at us, that's probably our average age is probably 17 or 18 years. So yes, we'll get a good 15 years out of this sweeper.
I have a related question. I know that we were increasing the amount of salt that we were putting down. So this next sweeper should last forever, right? Once we get to 100% salt, there isn't going to be any sand on the road.
There'll be a lot of rust on the sweeper.
Are we still on schedule to increase the salt usage?
We are doing a hotter mix but not going to 100% pure on all routes.
Right.
We're going to go through a transition for that. Each year, we're adding a couple additional routes, and also our older version mix was 3-to-1, and now we're looking at going to a 2-to-1 mix right now.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Sure, Rachel.
Jerry, I have a couple questions. So I just want to make sure I understand. There is the Construction Equipment Replacement Fund, and that's the 381,245.
That's correct.
And so, and then we'll receive the, 46,000 plus from the state.
Correct.
And, okay, so what you're saying is we take that off the price, and then we've got this money already in the budget in this
Correct.
line item. Okay. And you're saying that it's better just to pay for it outright.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so, I'm sorry, did you say the one that's the 1998, is that, we'll keep that and continue to use it for parts, or does it go
We're going
away?
to surplus that.
Okay.
We're going to go to Gov auction.
Oh, I see that. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Okay. All right, and then, so then we'll just have a total of 3, the one from 2000 and 2011, and then the new one, and
Correct.
just make use with those.
Because really, the 2000 and 2011, you got 2, but it's really only like one machine because
Right.
they're breaking down all the time.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Number 9. Item A.
I do think you need a vote on this one for the
I'm
sweeper.
sorry. Yes, we do. Would somebody like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that we support the purchase of, what's it called? The new street sweeper, the Isuzu dual cab, steer cab and chassis.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4 yeses. Motion passes. On to number 9.
All right, number 9, I brought up at the last meeting. 2 very overdue bills from Neil Tree Service. One that was 5 budget cycles ago. This was for the cemetery tree work. And the other one that was basically 3 budget cycles ago. To me, they're, after, discussions with staff and over the past 2 months since the last time we had the meeting, is somebody that goes that far, I don't have access into those budgets any further for 2018 and 2020. And we did look to see if there was bills back in that year, and we didn't see any invoices or billing. This does go back 3 public work directors ago, or 2, with Lou and Roy. And I always feel, and the team knows, that as soon as the work gets done, I want to get the invoice, I want to get the contractor paid. And that keeps up good relations with the contractor, for that. I'll say, I don't want to say I'll never do something like this, but not for 5 years, maybe a year, but not for 5 years that's out there. So that's just some of my discussion with it.
You had a question, Herb? Go ahead.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Thank you for your explanation on that as much as you could. I did not really look into this. I was approached by people at that time who appeared to have been in the know about what transpired. Back then, there was a different public work director. who was also the tree warden in town. This Mr. Neal was the tree warden in Woodbury. I've been told by several people this. They would frequently lay off business upon each other. If there was the need for a tree warden in Watertown, Mr. Kavanaugh would call in Mr. Neal, and vice versa into Woodbury. I was also told today by a former member of the town council at the time that at that time there was a reciprocal agreement that whoever cut down the wood would keep the wood and then sell it off as firewood. I don't know if that occurred in town, but I know that was done in Woodbury.
I don't know of any of that
I
history.
tend to believe that because I know people in Woodbury that have purchased.
I'm also a tree warden and, you
Didn't
know,
know
for the town, and so is Paul and Jody, assistant tree wardens. And I think a lot of times the wood, we have a hard time getting rid of the wood. If anybody wants wood, we probably have 1,000 cords sitting up at the transfer station. So it's, you know, so.
What I'm trying to explain on that is the possibility exists in my mind and in the mind of this council member at that time and a former council member who mentioned to me at that time that the former chair of the town council wanted the work done at the cemetery. He's no longer here to explain. The former town manager ultimately would have been responsible for any bills incurred, the payment of same. He's no longer here. I have a problem with paying the bill from back then. Has anybody asked Mr. Neal, is he still infirm to answer whether he could recall or not? What he did or didn't do? And did he make money for selling off this wood? If so, it's a wash. Thank you.
So, Jared, is there been any what happens if we deny paying this bill?
He could put a claim against the town. I think that's the worst thing that could happen.
So he could sue us for the money?
Correct.
Yeah. And there's no proof at all. Nobody has any invoices that were submitted back then. The new invoices are dated, recent dates on them.
Correct.
Right? I mean, I'm not for paying the bills. I mean, I don't think I know enough about it to ask anybody to agree to pay it.
Through the chair.
Yeah, yeah.
If the tort occurred, the wrong incurred by Mr. Neal or his staff and crew, that was back in 2018. I believe he'd have a year to file civil suit against the town for lack of payment. Somebody at that time dropped the ball, whether intentionally or not. And I can't see ourselves paying him anything.
What do you guys feel?
Well, I just have, through the chair, a question.
Sure.
So when did this become an issue, and how and why, I guess? I think I'm missing some.
So we're scoping out additional work at the cemetery, the town cemetery. Neal Tree Service is the one that gave a lot of expert advice for the cemetery. And so we had him out to look at it, and I always ask questions, you know, all the bills are paid. And he came back in a day or two, he goes, no, the 2018 bill wasn't paid. And it was verified, we looked through all the records, the bill wasn't paid. It's a standard question when I meet with contractors, are we up to date with you, and are you up to date with us? So I was totally surprised at a bill that came out from 5 years ago. We also, I know DAR provides a lot of great support for the cemetery, Daughters of the American Revolution. And they were pretty ecstatic that we're going to continue the work on the cemetery. And a lot of this work, yes, was done by the former tree warden and public works director. So it came about probably in the spring time period when we face this. I know Danielle and I spent many of hours, more on Danielle's side, going through all the records upstairs trying to find this.
Through the chair. also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. If we can't find a bill that was supposedly sent to the town of Watertown, there's no record that the bill was received here. There's no record to say that we didn't pay, obviously.
We did look through the system for payments, but our systems have changed
Yes.
at least once or twice over those 5 or 6 years. So you could only see so far electronically back into history.
Along those lines, sir, and unfortunately, the person responsible for receiving those bills and the disbursement of funds to pay off these bills is no longer employed by the town. So we have no town manager from then, no chairman of the council, no somebody in bills receivable and/or payable. There's a problem. And you tried all you could, obviously.
Chair, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you think we should pay him? And didn't we make a partial payment?
We did make a partial payment.
Right, so
with
if we
that-
made a partial payment on one of these bills, we're
Yeah.
probably responsible for finishing up that particular bill.
You're right.
When I first brought this up 2 months ago, I was dead set on paying them,
Yeah.
but now I'm definitely on the fence.
Yeah.
Especially for 5 years. I know in the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, that you're only given like 90 days to get your invoice in at the end of the year.
Right.
So it's really, you're given about a year plus 90 days to get your bill in, so they could clear the books out for that fiscal year.
Right, but I believe, because I was in purchasing for a lot of years, I think once you make a partial payment on an invoice, I think you own it. I think you have to pay the balance of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that
Yeah, I
part.
think that's the way the judge is gonna look at it. Is the partial payment made on the bill from 18?
I'm not sure. We're gonna look at some notes here to see.
And how much was paid?
We paid $6,620 on May 30th.
So the 87 bill is minus 6,600?
Yes.
Okay. So that leaves us with,
1,100?
leaves us with,
$2,080.
right. So that makes more sense to me. I probably wouldn't have a problem with paying that, but the other 8,000, I think we need some kind of proof that they actually, what did they actually do? When did they actually do it? Who was, I mean, maybe somebody remembers something about it.
And the other bill, I'm sorry for not getting this information, is the other bill is $8,000. We didn't pay anything off of that bill.
Right.
And what we did was come in there the end of the municipal year. We had a separate account for the cemetery account. That's where we paid them out of, for that.
Through the chair.
Sure, go ahead.
I think that would be a reasonable solution for the problem. If Jerry could have Danielle come up with the figure, the remainder owed from the first partial payment,
Which is $2,080.
$2,080, we could make a motion to, out of the fund from the cemetery account, pay Mr. Neal the $2,080 with the stipulation that we don't receive any more bills from him, and also that we really think long and hard about hiring a firm from out of town to do the work when we have a firm in town that would do the same.
Sure.
We don't have any funds in the cemetery account for this year. So we had it last year, but not for this year. So
Thank you.
there's no money in this current year for the cemetery.
Through the chair,
Sure, Rachel.
has this company followed up with you since the conversation you had about
No,
these bills?
Mr. Neal is like 85 years old. He's, as you could see, he was slow with putting in the invoice. As of a year or two ago, he was still climbing trees at 84 or 83 years of age.
That in itself scares me.
Yeah, so He's pretty strong as a bull, and, you know, so it's just communication has been slow with Mr. Neal.
I like Herm's motion. If we can scrape up $2,080 from somewhere, that would be great.
Out of our current accounts, or we go after another appropriation?
What works? What do you think?
I would say a current account, other than it's one less day's worth of tree work I'll be able to get done in the town.
And that makes sense. Is everybody on board here?
I agree.
Yep.
So I won't need a transfer or appropriation, because we'll use the current funds.
Okay.
But we'll still have the $8,000 bill that's there,
Right,
which we haven't paid anything on it.
correct. I'd say leave it, if you want to leave it on the agenda, leave it on the agenda, and maybe between now and our next meeting, we learn something new, but for now, I think that's pretty fair. I
Okay.
think everybody's in agreement. So we don't need a motion at all.
No, because it's not a transfer or an appropriation.
All right. Anything else, Jer?
That's it, other than I'd like to thank my team, we're working as a team with, and our goal on highways is, we should change the department's name to the maintenance department,
Yeah.
and get away from construction, which we are. And the engineering team is doing a great job on the designs and the construction for the projects that we have going on. You really go take a look at the Wilson Street Bridge, and you could, you know, see what we're doing. And also for Danielle for taking care of helping out with the heavy lift for the grants, because it's the towns that know, because the majority of the work we have going on right now is 100% state funded. Wilson Street was 50-50. Guernsey Town's 100%. When you add in all the ancillary things, it's like $4.3 million, not Watertown money. Yes, we pay for it in taxes and in other ways, but we're grabbing it and not another town. And the same thing for Steelbrook, 100% design, 100% construction, and community connectivity grant. So I just, you know, I want to just thank the team.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, guys. So we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's over. Thank you.
Thank you.